Hi, this is Eric Stromquist, and welcome to episode 252 of Control Talk. Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending January 28th, 2017. I am joined, as usual, by the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only 2018 version of Kenny Smyers, the control man from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show, a big dog.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. It's been a great couple of weeks. Still unwinding and decompressing, as Jim Young used to always say. After the show, you decompress from our ControlTrends Awards 2017 in Chicago. It's been an amazing week and a half because before that, of course, we were at the KMC Summit. So we've got a heck of a show with a lot to talk about.
We do, Kenny. Well, listen, man, I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I am exhausted. I know you are too. But the ControlTrends Awards, initial thoughts on it, big dog?
Well, Eric, I think it was an amazing success. Of course, we got to start by thanking our team at Stromquist, Stacy McCammon, Mike Bonner, Rob Allen and his wife. Thanks to my wife, Rita, and my daughter, Stephanie, and Sabrina, and Brendan, and Sam, and Tom, who gave us some assistance, because it's quite a an effort to orchestrate and get that many people comfortably seated and get the show underway, and then having the performance run a show. So thank you to Mark Peacock and Kim Brown for doing an outstanding job as MCs. Thank you to the Smiley Tillman Band, who really gave us some great entertainment, and to Hard Rock Cafe, and of course thanks to our sponsors, Eric, without which we could not perform the show. We could not do it. And again, I think our mission statement is to recognize the heroes and the superstars, the great products and solutions that make our world what it is. And I think we accomplished that.
I think we did too, Kenny. And from that perspective, I loved it. I loved the party atmosphere. I thought it was a little bit different. We were in a rock and roll club. I thought the band was phenomenal. I want to apologize to some of our audience there. We just assumed that they would have the sound right. They did for the band, but they did not have the sound right for the presenters on stage. So for some of our guests, it was very difficult for them to hear. We apologize for that, but hey, we learned it was something different. We will make sure next time that we totally dial in and get the get that audio right, which next time is going to be in Atlanta, so we have no excuse not to get it perfect. But, overall, Kenny, I thought, if you think about, like you just said, this is our night to come together. I mean, every other industry, every other group of people, from musicians to actors, to, has their sort of Hollywood moment, if you will, from the Academy Awards to the Grammys. And really and truly, when we set up with ControlTrends, Kenny, our goal was to give great people in our industry that opportunity to have that night. And I think mission accomplished there. I think everybody had a great time. And, again, I echo what you say. Special thanks to our sponsors. Without them, we couldn't make this happen. But it was good stuff, Kenny. And we have all the winners up. We had a post with all the winners, so you can go to ControlTrends and check that out. Now, I did video it, Kenny, and like I said, we did have very difficult sound, so I've been playing with the sound on that. I think what we're going to do for the people that couldn't actually be there, Kenny, is I think we're going to live stream a recording of the show. So I'm in the process now of trying to clean the audio up where that will be a pleasant experience. I think we'll be able to do that. So sometime later in the week, or maybe we'll do it the Sunday before the Super Bowl, who knows. We will live stream the entire ControlTrends show, the 2017 ControlTrends Award show, and then that will be archived, so you can go back and look at it later. And of course, we'll have our highlight reels from our great videographer Vlad Chaplupa, as well as some other surprises. So again, what is a Hollywood moment without paparazzi, right? So we have to make sure we get that done.
Yeah, we sure did. And then just another important aspect that we believe was very successful was of course, we recognized our young guns. We had 5 sharp shooter guys out there that we can look at these guys as role models, reverse engineer their careers. We had Aaron Gorka. He's the innovation manager from Man Technologies. Lance Patterson from Distech. He's a sales support engineer. Brian Klein. He's the owner of BC Technical Services, LLC. Drew Meyer, CEO, CompuTools. And Rick Barnes, branch manager of Connect Air, the Atlanta branch. So we got to meet people that are the young guns coming up in our industry. They're going to be setting the precedent. I've already made a mark in our industry at such a young age. So congratulations to them. And then what did you think of our Hall of Fame?
Well, hang on a second. I want to go back to the young guns for a minute because, part of what Kenny and I, part of these awards, what they're morphing into, if you will, is a couple of things. One of them is we realize there's going to be a huge dearth, if you will, of people. We got 60% of the people retiring from our industry by the year 2024, I believe, Kenny. So studied by Renee Joseph at Johnson Controls, and Kenny, you've done research with others. So people are leaving the industry at a much faster rate than people are coming into the industry. And on top of that, our industry is growing. So one of the big trends or potential challenges Kenny and I see is how do we get more people into our industry? So part of the Young Guns was to begin to recognize the younger people in our industry that are coming in and making a difference. And why do we do that? Well, you figure if you're looking at different professions that you might go into, you see, well, hey, if you're a young person, you can come in, you get recognized right off the bat. We're doing a similar thing, Kenny, with the Woman of the Year. Again, we got so many great women in our industry already, but not enough. And we think between younger people and women and adding diversity into our industry, we can fill that glitch. But the first thing is to bring awareness, and one of the best ways to bring awareness is to recognize when people are doing a good job. So that's what the Young Guns is about and what the Woman of the Year is about. And of course, the Hall of Fame. And I think, Kenny, if you think about what's the Hall of Fame all about, well, why does any great profession have a Hall of Fame? Like, baseball and football. It's because you never want to forget where you came from. You never want to forget the great people that have contributed and done outstanding things in your industry. And one day, as we've talked about, Kenny, Smyers, we hope to have a ControlTrends museum, which will probably be virtual. And we can imagine having a hall where you go down the Hall of Fame, and you got maybe a video of all the different Hall of Fame inductees with what they did and so on and so forth. So we did things a little bit different this year. When I say different, we sort of expanded our horizons, if you will, and talk about that, Kenny. We started out with somebody who's worked tirelessly for making sure. I mean, we're in the age of big data, and our first inductee is somebody that has been around for a while, and he has tirelessly worked to get studies together so people can make informed decisions. As one of my teachers once said, in God we trust, and all else gets data. So our first inductee, Mr. Ron Zimmer, I tell you what, buddy, he from CABA has done a great job. So tell our listeners a little bit about Ron.
Well, he sure is. We met Ron Zimmer probably 10 years ago, I'd say, and CABA was always a very important name in the industry. It's out of Canada, and they have just tremendous resources. And what they do is they provide they get thought leaders, they get the opinions and ideas of what's going on in our industry, and they put it out there for us all to benefit from. But Ron Zimmer, some of the facts and details. He joined CABA in 1997. And has been working with industry leaders who promote integrated systems and home and building automations throughout the world. CABA members, just to give you some background, they include the governments, manufacturers, dealers, installers, service providers, energy utilities, builders, consultants, research organizations, education institutions, and people like us. People that also that are very much in the business and very active, but everywhere you go, you bump into CABA and you see the mark they leave behind. So the leadership that, so Ron has been running, he's the CEO of and president of CABA. And he's been doing this since 1997. And the growth of CABA is an indication of just how successful he's been to a leader. And I think, as we look back on how we set, how the industry has grown, how is it established? We're talking, $38 billion industry, and the parts that CABA got involved in, and Ron did, was establishing standards. He established the CABA XML and Web Services Committee, OBIX, which now resides with Oasis. He also worked on the translation team that integrated Internet Home Alliance into CABA, which became CABA's Connected Home Research Council. So as you mentioned, they generate some research documents that the industry benefits by saying where is the market, how is the market growing, where's it going to, how is it shaping, so that you can make intelligent business decisions at all those levels we mentioned. So congratulations to Ron Zimmer.
Ron and Ross and King and the rest of the team, they do a great job. If you hadn't had a chance to check them out, I think it's CABA.com or .org, but check those out. And Kenny, I tell you what, we thought long and hard about the next award, but if you think about it, none of us would probably be in this industry if it wasn't for the thermostat, right? So everything sort of spun off of the thermostat. So you did a little bit of research, and our next inductees were directly tied to the thermostat, and we went back over 100 years posthumously or whatever. So give us a little bit of the history on where the thermostat started and who our next two inductees were to the ControlTrends Hall of Fame.
Well, our next two inductees to the Hall of Fame were Warren S. Johnson, of course, from Johnson Controls, and Mark C. Honeywell, of course, from Honeywell. And the story that our basis was that one of the most ubiquitous instruments and implements that we have of technology that make our lives comfortable in the first world is the thermostat. It's the most ubiquitous piece of equipment owned by nearly everybody that owns a house or rents a house or leases a space, and it's how we keep ourselves comfortable. So the origin of the thermostat goes back to a Scottish chemist back in 1830. His name was Andrew Urey, and he was working on metal, melting and whatever. He just had to have constant temperature, so he came up with a bimetal device. It wasn't called a thermostat, of course. The actual thermostat was patented in 1883 by Warren S. Johnson, and then Mark C. Honeywell worked off some of the incredible forework of Albert M. Butts, but Honeywell was a businessman that understood that there was a need for this. In fact, Mark C. Honeywell had the first hot water heating system in North America. That's what the reference says, that it is believed that he created the first heating system. So these beginnings, these origins of heating and controlling heat actually, stemmed the business that has now grown into be what it is. Of course, it's funny when you look back at some of the progression lines of heat. It goes back to the fire. It goes back to lava pits and how they took some of these pieces of lava and took them back and created a continuous fire, all the way to what we're doing now, where we talk with one later on the post with Ken St. Clair of the extraordinary advancements we're having in IoT and data. But it felt really good to give these awards out because a representative from Johnson came up and a representative from Honeywell came up to really and truly begin to recognize, as you said, the people that made our industry great. And we're going to continue to look back every year and bring one or two more of these champions, these stalwarts of our industries, into our Hall of Fame.
Right, and I tell you what, it was great. Representatives from Honeywell and Johnson Controls came up and accepted the award. It was kind of a little bit of a tearjerker. And real quick for our audience out there, you might notice it's a little bit different. The camera gear is still being shipped back from Chicago, so we got a little bit different setup. So I know our audio is a little bit off. Especially it sounds like on Kenny's side that is really picking up every time he moves. But we'll work through that. But we'll get the audio quality back next time. But it's probably doing the same thing on my side, and I just can't hear it. But hey, it is what it is. We're gonna have a little bit shorter show today. But Kenny, again, and those two companies, Honeywell and Johnson Controls, think about what those two companies have meant to our industry and what they continue to mean to our industry. And you and I are both distributors of controls. And Honeywell and Johnson were the first people to start going through distribution. So it kind of only made sense logically that we would take our last and final inductee to the Hall of Fame and take one of the first controls distributors. And this gentleman's still alive, still with us. He's got his second generation. His two sons are running the company now, Scott Cochran and Don Cochran Jr. But tell us a little bit about Don Cochran.
I'd love to, Eric. Don Cochran Sr. is another frontiersman. He was another individual that began the first steps in the direction that now many of us followed behind. So, in other words, when we talk about pioneers, we talk about people that came up concepts. Don Cochran Sr. started with Honeywell and knew what Honeywell was doing and knew about the markets. The problems you had was getting the products, the productization of these items to the people, the contractors, to the users on a consistent, reliable channel basis. And so the first people off the boat really had to come up with some great ideas and really forge the way that everybody else followed. So you and I both came from family businesses that are in the distribution channel, and we just got there and it was already kind of established. Now there was a lot of modifications and improvements, and the channel, of course, really took off in a different dimension. But imagine the days back 50 years ago when you were struggling to get product from, say, manufacturer Honeywell in Minnesota out to all the extremities, to all the 50 states in North America, of course, around the world. But in our channel, we live and die by getting controls to us very quickly. And UPS, of course, remember we did the post before UPS. You actually used the the buses, the bus systems, the Greyhound bus systems that serviced every city. You would take the control to the bus station, and you'd buy little. They had little markers on the bus where you put in the suitcases, and that's where your control went. And then if you were receiving it, you'd go to the Greyhound bus station and pick up your package. Well, of course, now we know the UPS and Federal Express and all the other great delivery companies are fulfilling these orders like clockwork and very reliable. But in the beginning, it was kind of rough. So when we went to ControlCon in Detroit, the Cochrane's celebration of their 50th anniversary, and got to see some of the historical relevance, how things weren't always this easy, and the great ideas these people had, and then as they improved their systems, it was emulated throughout the industry, and now we have a great distribution industry, and so this was an opportunity to recognize one of the frontiersmen, Don Cochrane Sr.
Yeah, and what a great guy he was. And of course, I think we could have equally argued that your grandfather, Edward C. Smyers, was one of the first guys too, and he'll probably be an inductee in the very near future. So,
as your father is, as the Stromquist company again has a great legacy, and see, that's what the ControlTrends is all about. That's what the Hall of Fame is all about. Is to really bring the cool, the real personal aspect, that these are real people, and they really and truly made some, investments of their time and put their life savings on the line, and turned the bend, and then delivered great results that lead to legacy companies that, of course, other companies in the industry emulate and follow. So it's kind of giving that attention is a great thing.
Well, it's a cool thing for sure. And then the other category that we added a couple new categories, but another one I want to sort of touch on real quick here, Kenny, was our Enlightened Consulting Engineer of the Year award. And that was a great award. Again, if you think about, we're at AHR, we've got the manufacturers there, we've got the integrators there. We had the Master Systems Integrator. I think it's the third one of those this year. The new category introduced was Enlightened Consulting Engineer, because we really think with all these new technologies, this really requires the consulting engineers to start driving it. So we had a co-winners this year. We had Don Walker out of Atlanta. Donnie Walker is somebody that we work with at Newcomb and Boyd. And Donnie's kind of got a footprint that goes almost global. I mean, it was funny when we were looking for people to nominate, we called some of the key people we knew all across the country, and Donnie's name kept coming up. So it's not just that he's doing great things here in Georgia. He's known all across the United States. And then speaking of that, our other co-winner was actually out of London, England.
Yeah, it was Richard Reed from Rupp, London, UK. And like you said, the ControlTrends voting spanned 57 countries around the world. And, that to me, I still get tickled to think I can't name 57 countries, but I can read them. And as people registered, it was amazing how the attention was given to, local champions in England, India, Australia, South Africa, and so the voting reflected an international opinion of those young consultants. Or I don't know how. I've never met Richard Reed. I've heard of Richard Reed, but their mental direction to get the intelligent connected building really off the ground requires some hard work and some heavy lifting with the specifications.
Well, and it requires some risk, right? Because
sure.
Again, you think about the last thing that any of us, especially a consulting engineer, wants to do is to take a lot of risk. In other words, if it's always worked this way, you're not going to get in trouble for it. So, really reaching out, creating different sections in the specification, for example, maybe where you're bringing lighting and integration and controls all together under a new section. I mean, requires, an engineer to take some risk, to be a great salesperson, to convince the owner, hey, this is a better way to do it. And guys like Donnie and Richard, they get pushback. The way it's always been done. I mean, it's disruptive. So, again, we will continue with that award, and congratulations to Donnie and Rich. Appreciate those guys a lot. And Kenny, eventually what we'll do, and hopefully in the near future, because the only piece that we're missing, if you think about it, we got the distributors, we got the manufacturers, we got the products, we got the systems integrators, now we got the consulting engineer, and at some point in time we will acknowledge the sort of enlightened owners that are driving this too, that empower guys like Donnie and Rich and say, let's find a better way to do this, right? So that'll be coming up, maybe next year or the year after that. We'll figure that out. But eventually it'll be a soup to nuts all the way up and down the supply chain. We will be recognizing and celebrating with all the players to make smart buildings and HVAC what it is.
Sure. And while we're at it, in kind of a closure on the 2017 ControlTrends Awards, is that we have already got the wheel turning for 2018. Again, thank you to the people that gave us those positive comments that we can we can benefit from. So we got some really good feedback and the networking opportunity.
Sorry, Kenny. Excuse me. My coffee went down the wrong pipe, buddy.
I hate when that happens.
Now, man. So now I'll probably get a little jittery because now the caffeine went right to my lungs.
Inhale is the fastest way to get in your blood. Yeah. So the 2018 is going to be in Atlanta, and it's already exciting because we've already got commitments from people, and people have already come on board, so to speak, to let us know that they really want to keep this wheel turning. And any feedback we get, we take seriously. And as you said, it's about the trends, and the Enlightened engineering was just another movement of the trends. So that as the trends identify new areas of our industry and highlight areas of our industry, like we did with the women, and then the young guns
was another one, yeah.
And marketing, it's making it all better. I mean, I think that certainly the marketing. I mean, look at those videos we were able to feature on ControlTrends, and I think everybody that's in the marketing world appreciates somebody that does something well, even if it wasn't your own design. You certainly have the benefit of seeing it and then measure the results and then respond accordingly. So it's just a really exciting show, and you're. The fact that your equipment's still on its way to Atlanta just indicates how long it takes to kind of unwind and decompress and get things back to normal. So,
well, yeah, I tell you what, to get this stuff in, it takes a lot of equipment and a lot of work. So again, thanks to the team from DMS and your family and from Stromquist and company to help us make that possible. But Kenny, we got up here a couple of days early because the other big news was we covered the KMC Genius Summit, and whoa, what an amazing thing. First of all, KMC, Richard Newberry, and the Keeler family, they don't do anything halfway. Best location ever. We stayed at the Langham Hotel, which phenomenal hotel. I mean, if there's such a thing as a 5-star hotel, this had to have been a 15-star hotel. So the accommodations were great. They had negotiated a great rate on the rooms. So if you ever get a chance to go to a KMC Genius Summit, I tell you what, you will be treated well. I think I told you, if I ever turn up missing, just look at that hotel, because I probably have run away and hiding out in that hotel.
Well, you'll have a partner in crime then, because if you run away and hide there, I'm coming with you, because it was spectacular. And Chicago is such a beautiful city, and the weather was gentle to us. So thank you, Chicago. It was very kind. We had last time we were there, snowstorms and ice storms and just a real miserable environment. This time it was exciting, fresh city, and that hotel was extraordinary, and the people, I mean, just great staff from the beginning at the door on. It feels like you're going into another world, a higher level of service, and the show itself was amazing. The KMC Genius Summit, I think that's a pretty interesting title, because they're not hiding anything. They really believe what they're doing is cutting edge and top of the industry line, setting new benchmarks. They had some incredible keynote speakers. They had Rick Lisa from Intel. They had Luis Alvarez from Alvarez Technology Group. They had Mike Ashraf, who was a commander of the Civic Fleet.
Mike.
And they had Josh Linker, who was a 2-time New York Times best-selling author. So in addition to taking care of business from KMC's perspective, bringing people up to speed on the Commander, their product line, some of the interesting, they've really pushed the envelope with the Commander, and it's quite a thing. We'll be talking about that later on. As you said, we covered it for 2 days, and we got a chance to see the inside, straight on what they were trying to achieve. It is a small building solution. It has, but it has the big building enterprise connectivity, so you can take it in either direction. But it's really giving the contractors out there in the world a low-cost solution that gets them on board, web-enabled, cloud-hosted. Why don't we talk about which one? Rick from Intel. Tell us what your thoughts were about his presentation about the 95.5 managed service.
Yeah, I think that Rick Lisa from Intel, and you guys remember Rick, he's the guy that scared the hell out of everybody about 4 years ago when we went to Realcomm Ibicon. We covered him and had everybody in the industry thinking Intel was going to come take over. And I think somebody from Intel had a little chat with Rick. Now they're a much kinder, friendlier Rick. But the big takeaway I got from Rick's presentation was that there's a $2 trillion IoT market that's coming up between now and 2020. I think think it's
no, it's beyond that. But we can look
it's 2030. But anyway, the point he was making was managed services. This was the theme we heard over and over and over again, was managed services is where the money is. So managed services, here's an example they gave. Instead of, you got a business and you got 150 printers, instead of somebody in your staff going in and making sure the printers are okay and changing the ink, you can pay somebody a monthly fee. They make sure your printers are all working. You never have to worry about it. That's a managed service. He is saying that 95% Intel, we heard it from Dell as well as KMC, 95% of that $2 trillion market or whatever it is going to be managed services. 5% is going to be hardware. So I think part of what KMC is doing is they're partnering with people like Intel and Dell so that they can offer their customers the ability to participate not only in the hardware side of this, but also there'll be a suite of managed services that could be offered through the integrators. Now, we shot a video. We got great interviews with all these people. I've just got to get it edited and get it posted on ControlTrends. So you'll be able to hear all this directly from some of these key folks. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, to your point, so we heard from Rick saying about the managed services. So 95% is going to be in the services, 5% is going to be hardware. So we're selling controls or whatever, and some of these controllers are starting to disappear because they're being replaced by technology and hosted services in the cloud, and you have IoT talking directly from a device. The end devices can go into the cloud or go into a local version of the cloud, the fog, or it can go into an edge controller. So, but we're seeing the shrinkage of actual hardware and more of a growth of the software. And to that point, we had Luis Alvarez give his testimony where he had been, basically provided services for networks, and now he's taken over. He gave the growth facility out in California. It was a marijuana medicinal and recreational, I think it was a recreational facility. But instead of him just taking over the printers and the network devices, he took over the whole building. And he said how he grew his business from, $1 million plus to now he sold the first business, and now he grew another business. But the idea was that the attitude needs to change first, your philosophy, and that's where some of the other folks that we got a chance to hear. This Mike Brashoff.
Well, hang on a second. I want to hop on what you just said there, because I think
Sure.
It's a really good point. Guys like Lewis are looking for people like us to partner with, and this gets back to what Rolling Oaks was talking about with this whole change coming about. IT people need OT people like us to work with. And I think if you look at what KMC is trying to do, is they're trying to marry those two worlds together. They're a conduit between the two worlds, okay? So, for example, Rick Lisa did say that Intel's entire sales force that's talking at the enterprise level at these corporations, they all know what the commander is. They're all talking the commander. That's a gateway to allow these managed services to take place in the building. So, it seems like part of what KMC's value proposition now is hey, we're going to help you participate in this, okay, versus you going and finding the business on your own. So, I think that's a huge piece there that because when I hear it's going to be managed services, I don't know how the hell to go do that, right? I mean, that just is a point of confusion and fear for me. But, and I think, KMC sort of leading the way. And if you think about, again, we talked about that whole thing when Rick Lisa came out and all the people showed up at Realcomm Ibicon that year out of nowhere. And we're all freaking out, thinking they're coming in and going to take our, move our cheese and take our business. Well, so the responses were kind of varied. Some people just ignore it and say it's not going to be a problem. Other people like us, we're doing the Paul Revere thing. Hey, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And what KMC does is they just basically go out and they partner with them. They got proactive. They went out and said, well, we'll partner with you guys. Let's tell you why we're needed. So I think we're going to see more of that sort of partnering. But I think, if we ever do a history timeline, it'll be KMC that sort of is trying to bring those two worlds together. So again, congratulations to Richard Newberry and the team at KMC for having that insight and pulling those worlds together. So that being said, it gets back to the attitude thing, like you're saying, which
no, I think it was a segue there too, because we got a chance to talk, at length, like you said, when everybody else kind of went away, surprised and in disbelief. Richard Newberry took his team in, and they said, "Let's get on with this." And Tim Fogel, the marketing guy from KMC, also told us about when they have Intel, Dell, and KMC in this collaboration. What they got done in 2 years is incredible. If any single company undertakes that, like Intel couldn't get into our markets by just trying to challenge the market and said, we're Intel, show up, and here we are. They needed a partner. They needed a sleeve to get inside the well-being and the trust circle of users and building owners or whatever, which KMC had. So one of the cool things that we got to hear from being at this meeting and listening to some of these aside conversations was the incredible collaboration that took place that delivered a product in 2 years that may have taken 6-8 years if any single company tried to do it. So that was really cool.
That was very cool. And then the speakers, I think, supported that. So, you were starting to talk a little bit about the, the attitude shift and thinking differently. And I think right back to the commander, he was amazing. So your thoughts on him?
Well, first of all, he's from Altoona, which is, about an hour and a half from where I live. And, I drove through Altoona a zillion times. That's part of our market area. And a friend of mine lived in Altoona, and he went to Penn State. So I know Altoona well. So this gentleman, Mike Abrashoff, he took command of the worst performing ship in the Navy's Pacific Fleet. 12 months later, it was named the best ship in the entire Navy, using the same crew. He's a bestseller. He's got Ship Happens. The first book was It's Your Ship, but I got a kick out of keep this ship thing. Ship Happens. What were some of the other names that he had? He's got 4 books to do with ship. But he said the most common word in the world is no. The first thing people, when you try to get people to change and get out of their sweet spot and take over, people just resist it. And then he was saying how he enabled his crews. He interviewed every single person on the ship, and made them feel as part of the team. And that if they could improve 1% every day, the outcome would be extraordinary. It'd be an enormous participation, and he also changed the way that the crew and the officers that reacted to each other. When he first got there, the crew trumped their rank into the front of the lines, and the rest of the crew waited till the commander and the other officers ate. Well, he reversed that. He learned from another great mentor of his own. Put your people, take them seriously, enable them, and give them equal footing, and just let them perform. And
let them be. What was interesting about that was he didn't tell his officers that they should let the crew go first. He said the first day he was on the thing, they all line up to go to this meal, and he immediately goes to the back of the line, and said the second day the rest of them were in the back of the line too. So he leads by example. So he was amazing, Kenny. Great book. And who else did you like? I mean, the guy Josh Linkner. Which actually I was asking Ted Halkin, those guys, because he's based out of Detroit, and he said, you and I were wondering if he knew the folks from Bedrock, and apparently he used to work for him. He used to work for Bedrock.
Wow, what a small world! Yeah, that was extraordinary because we all like to get. That's the benefit of going to these summits, these 2 days, where they really cram a lot of technical and a lot of professional, but to get this kind of consulting laid on you at such a close proximity, it was amazingly influential to see how he had a concept where you fall 7, stand 8, and he gave us one example after another of these incredible entrepreneurs that they did a judo flip. Instead of automatically saying, no, we can't do it, we've never done it that way, they take this opposite attitude and say, why can't we do it this way? And they built a bike, for instance. He featured a bike on his presentation where they had the bike, the Federation International CU had rules of what a bike couldn't do. The tires had to be even. This had to be this. The steering wheel had to be this big or whatever. Or not steering wheel, the handlebars had to be a certain dimension or whatever. So they built a bike exactly opposite to it and came up with one of the coolest bikes ever designed. So the concept was that there's so much opportunity that with this disruption and with the game-changing news we get on a daily basis, some people have an opportunity to make that an incredible. The new entrepreneurs are coming out because they see it differently. They don't want to do things the same way. It's called creative disruption, and there's a certain power there. And he wanted us to all share in that, and it really worked. I very much enjoyed that presentation.
When Kenny says fall 7, rise 8, I think the other commonality there is that basically they fail 7 times. On the 8th time they win. So that's one of the difference between true entrepreneurs and people that sort of give up. They don't give up at the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, hey, they keep going and they keep trying. So it's a good stuff. All right, buddy. Anything else you can think of about the KMC conference? That we had a great selling guy there that was teaching us how to sell the products, and very good stuff there. So when they do one of these conferences, they really try to instill you with new ideas, new concepts, and then give you the tools. So there are great technical tracks. So again, definitely worth checking out. We'll be posting the video where you can hear directly from guys like Rick Lisa and Richard Newberry and Tim Vogel and the rest of the team there. So man, Ken, then after that, we went to AHR. We got to cover Ken Sinclair's Connected Collaboratory, which, again, is phenomenal. But we actually got a video posted on that so you can see that yourself. But, man, hats off to Ken Sinclair. What a great job he does with this. I mean, you talk about a guy who tirelessly gives to the community. What were your thoughts on his Connected Collaboratory community?
Well, it was very interesting. Number one, Ken St. Clair's 6th annual Connection Community Collaboratory featured a panel of industry experts that were second to none. It was very informative. It was very well attended. There were systems integrators. I think Mark Petark asked for a show of hands. Engineers, there was a good group of engineers, building owners, and facility managers. Good show, raised their hands. So I'd say it's probably 75 to 100 people there. I couldn't really, I didn't do a head count, but it was very well attended. But the thing that Ken's trying to do here is he's trying to say, how do we create value from our newfound edge data? How do we bring it back to the hive where it's important to discover new ways of providing comfort, health, satisfaction? Ken was particularly tickled by the fact that there was a lot of hardware talk, this new IoT hardware where you see Raspberry Pis and Beagle boards and Amazon Echoes and Hey Googles all coming into what was used to be our space, So the oblique entrances of all this technology, IoT technology, is changing the way that we see ourselves and the way we present ourselves, and he also believes that we have a chance to recreate our new digital image of ourselves, of our industry. So it's kind of cool.
That was really cool. Great input there. Great speakers. Ken does such a great job of bringing people together. And you talk about a guy who's a fantastic moderator. I mean, Ken really brings the best out in people. So, again, that's on Control Trends. If you haven't seen that yet, I encourage you to check it out. Kenny, man, we had a really great winner for a contest. Tell us about our winner from the EasyIO contest.
All righty. I'd love to meet Brett Pascone from Northeast Services, the winner of the 2017 EasyIO Wireless FW Series Application of the Year. Back in October, Mike Marston and EasyIO launched a competition to market their newly deployed EasyIO Wireless FW Series to North America. The first 25 responses that correctly answered each of the 7 questions, and then accompanied with a description of how they, as a contractor, used this FW Series Wi-Fi controller to solve a challenging application, all came to fruition here when Brett was giving a round-trip ticket, all-expense-paid visit to the ControlTrends Awards in Chicago. So this was really neat. I got a chance to meet Brett and talk to him about the application, which we're going to have a post coming up. He's going to send us an updated post or application. This guy is a wizard. He's out of New Jersey. He works for Northeast Services, and I'm sure they're very proud of him. In our post, we have Frank Whitmer from Brody Precisions. Frank's the Chief Technology Support at Brody, and then Brett's colleague Daniel Edelman accompanied him to Chicago and to the show. But just a really impressive guys. I thought it was a neat marketing concept by EasyIO to get friendly, crowd-sourced marketing. So here it was. They had all these people competed for a round-trip ticket. Brett won, and congratulations. It's a great post.
Yeah, it is great. Congratulations, Brett. That's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, speaking of EasyIO, Kenny, our good friend Loom Hoo Chot, while we were in Chicago, gave us a little warning on something that our community needs to be aware of. Niagara Tritium officially recognized the same problem. So tell people why they should check this post out, and that'll be our final thing for the day. But we actually posted this particular threat, and how about giving us the 411 on that, please?
Oh, yeah, this is important, Eric. Tritium had a technical bulletin posted yesterday called Mitigating Meltdown Inspector Vulnerabilities. Now, these are 2 very nasty viruses that will definitely cause problems if you don't take recommended actions. So on January 3rd, a group of researchers from Google, Project Zero, Smyers Technologies, and several universities revealed two major flaws in computer chips that could leave a huge number of computers, smartphones, vulnerable to security concerns. They're called Meltdown Inspector. The flaws exist in the processor families and could allow an attacker to reach sensitive data stored in the memory, like passwords, and look into what tabs someone has opened up on their computer. So the research indicates that almost every computer system, again, laptops, desktops, smartphones, and cloud servers are affected by these flaws. Now, the details are on the post, and I highly recommend them, even if you're a computer genius or a computer lackey that doesn't care one way or the other. This is important because they said that there's the Niagara products, the impacted tritium products are listed. So a Niagara server running on Windows or Linux, if you have a Niagara supervisor that runs on these, your machine could be affected. Recommended actions are listed. And the links are there to go to Linux and to go to Microsoft and get their patches and updates. So it's not necessarily the tritium products have these flaws. It's what inside the tritium products, they have these ARM processors. And it goes into great detail about the Jace hardware. So you have the Jace 2, 3, 6, 7 families. They use a much older PPC hardware, and the processor vendor has determined that they are not susceptible to either the Spectre or the Meltdown. The Jace 8000 is also not affected by Meltdown. However, the Spectre, the Jace 8000 uses an ARM chip that is reportedly vulnerable to Spectre. So this is the real McCoy. Please take a look at this. Anybody out there that's using Niagara, Tritium has gone through great lengths to make this available to us as media, and we reposted this so that we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to look at it and square their systems away, because they have many links, but they have the Niagara AX hardening guide, the N4 hardening guide, the Tritium talk on cybersecurity. They've got a question and answer, in-depth Tritium talk also on cybersecurity, and then the Tritium cybersecurity white paper. So please take a look at that to the post. It'll take you to the right links, and this is the real McCoy. This is serious.
Yeah, well, it is, and just to let you know how serious it is, there is, I saw in the financial news, Intel is actually being sued by a class action suit. That's public now, so no fooling around with this. So, all right, Kenny Smyers. Well, listen, man, we're getting back. We're getting readjusted. Again, different software we're working with this week, so any noise things, apologize. We should be back to normal next week. But we definitely want to reach out to our community and touch base with our episode this week. It's been a great week in Chicago. Again, thanks to all the folks from KMC for their hospitality at the Genius Summit. Thanks for all our sponsors for making the ControlTrends Awards possible. And thanks for Mike Marsh and EasyIO for tipping us off on this chip debacle here. So, all right, buddy. Well, with that, anything you want to say before we hop off?
No, just again, it was a great 2 weeks. Thanks to all the support, and again, we're back to the grist mill, and we're going to be putting posts out as fast as we can, and it's all going to be good. So a lot of relevant material coming up. And apologies to anybody we may have missed. We give a lot of shout-outs and thanks, but eventually, we find out that there was somebody that did something good and we didn't get a chance to recognize them. So in the case, that being the case, sorry in advance.
Yeah, well, we're well-intentioned, right, Kenny Smyers? We do our best to hit everybody, but I'm sure we do miss some folks. And again, man, it was so nice because when we go to these events and go to these awards, when people come up and say hi to us, they listen to the show and watch the show, man, it makes us feel good, so we appreciate that. So with that, Kenny Smyers, I tell you what, let's take it down. Let's remember our ControlTrends committee. Remember, be bold, stay in control, and stay relevant.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. Have a great week, buddy.